Thanks, Chair. It's good that you have agreed to produce an environmental design guide, and I'm hoping that this is going to guarantee that in future city infrastructure schemes will give proper consideration to the local environment and community life. You know how important that is to local residents. You will, of course, be wanting the guide to be as good as it can be, and you must surely be wanting to rebuild public faith and trust in the city field. So the question is, will you carry out a public consultation to allow people to comment on the draft guide and contribute ideas and examples of best practice?
Thank you, Nicola. I think Councillor Bates is going to contribute rather than this.
Really a question, actually, Nicola. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the question. Do you recognise the fact that there is national guidelines and local guidelines in this area? And isn't that a good way of actually building on exactly those that you say design guides we all wish? Would you agree with me?
Well,
I don't think I get a chance, but since I've been asked, I must apply to. I mean, there may be very good national and local guidance on certain aspects, but what the public wants to see is a comprehensive, coherent, local guide to guide these schemes that you will be bringing forward, and therefore, the public need and deserve to have a chance to have an input on that.
Well, I think what we propose is that we will be bringing the design guide, which will be based around a set of principles, but which will go further, which will have the context of Cambridge, but cannot be a uniform guide, because even within Cambridge we've got a set of principles, precisely because we've got different contexts in terms of legislation and different issues. And the opportunity for input will largely be that of the Assembly, but it will be in the public domain before a decision is made by the board. So there will be a report which will go to the Assembly first, and there will be opportunity for input, and the Assembly may come up with some amendments as part of the discussion, including input from yourselves and others. Thank you. Question 2 is from Roxanne Bow from the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Name of it.
Sorry, John Hayden, Cambridge Cycling Campaign. I've asked 3 questions. The first point I was trying to make was that we're very happy about the Chisholm Trail going forward. 90% response rate is fantastic. The second question is around the junctions between bits of schemes. The Chisholm Trail, for example, will have high quality crossings over most major roads, but there are other proposed schemes like the cross-city deal schemes that the junctions are just being completely and utterly ignored. And we believe that those are the places where most of the accidents occur, most of the injuries occur to people on bicycles, and they must be fixed. Our proposal is slightly an alternative approach in that can the current traffic volumes and movements of cars and bicycles and people walking at junctions within Cambridge be published in the public domain so that we can propose alternative junction designs to those that the consultants are coming forward with that can provide additional pedestrian and cycle safety whilst accommodating the existing congestion levels in the city.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hughes, can you respond on that, particularly on the sharing of data?
Thank you, Chairman. Picking up the point of data sharing to start with, absolutely, when we have data, we're very happy to share that, and we often do. So there's no problem with that. I think probably that the caveat is that not all of these structures, you talk about pedestrian cyclists, etc., we don't necessarily have all of that data. We can certainly make available what is available, and people they can do what they want with that. I think just briefly on the cross-city cycle, you talk about some of the junctions being inadequate. I think just the key point to make is that what we have to do is always a balance between different users. And so, as we discussed on a number of occasions in this talk, what we produce doesn't always satisfy one particular user group, and sometimes doesn't always satisfy cycle campaign. We try to do our best, but we do have to look at balancing within the resources available for these different groups. And so, unfortunately, that doesn't always give a particular user group everything we'd like. We try to get the balances as right as we can.
And in terms of the data, if you ask contact Graham, then you can fix a meeting and give you what data there is. Yeah.
Okay. And if possible, could you answer the other questions in the written form in minutes?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, we will. Thank you. And question 3 is from Paul Carpen and Nick Burgess from the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. Will be met on this issue on Tuesday.
Indeed. The attached letter to the papers gives the context, so I won't further you without it again. Can I just say thank you very much to the departments who have us already and gone a long way, I think, towards getting a positive outcome here. We're very grateful for that. So if the question is a little bit inadequate or spiky, it probably wouldn't be if it was written now. But this is how it's written. In view of the concerns of taken in the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce and our West Suffolk public partners, that the WSP Parsons Concepts Report appears to have totally discounted any growth planned in the area in 2031, and the predicted current A1307 use and no growth in future traffic flows on the A1307, particularly HGVs from Hayden Industrial Estate, and therefore vastly reduced the BCR of during the A1307, Haydale to Cambridge, due to poor and incorrect data input into the model. What will the GCCD board and public partners do to correct the report evidence, to ensure correct conclusions, and help mitigate the negative impact the report currently has on the Haydale Chamber-led national campaign to fully deal with the A1307?
Okay. Well, as we discussed when we met, the focus of the city deal is on schemes that score against what our remit is, which is essentially the A1307 this side of the A11 and 4 Wembley. So we will proceed subject to the board's decision with a consultation on that, which again you can contribute to, but which is effectively going to be informed by some of the issues that you raised and which we'll address before we go out to consultation. So in terms of the technical detail, we'll address the technical detail. And then I think Councillor Bates is going to come in on the broader point. Or Mr. Hughes first. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just to reflect on that, there was, as Mr. John said at the meeting on Tuesday, I think some useful discussions took place. I think just to be clear, the model did deal with growth, but it just dealt with it in a particular way, and what's been discussed is whether specific elements of growth can be put into the model. But as I say, the model didn't ignore the effect of growth, it's just the way the model was undertaken. So very happy, as was discussed on Tuesday at the meeting in Neighbourhood to look at those issues. We're already we've made a seat about practicalities of how we would do that, traffic surveys, etc. would be necessary. I think just the only final point I'm making is that work needs to go ahead, and it will produce inevitably a different BCR. So the BCR range in the report, I think, is about 0.35 to 0.6. And just to be clear, the hurdle rate, if you like, BCR is probably about 2. So it's quite a long way to go in terms of changing the number. But I think we will all reflect, and the officers at Cambridgeshire and has been very clear, as we suffer for a long time, 13% needs addressing. The challenge has always been getting the money to actually address it. It clearly is a problem range that doesn't need addressing.
So can I just ask that...
Sorry, it's not an open discussion.
No, it's not that. It's the acoustics. The
Oh,
acoustics
that's
in
fair
this room are
point.
not good. So please, would the members, there's people speaking, A, use their microphone and bring it close to them, and B, speak clearly, because none of us can hear what you're saying. And we'd dearly like to. Thank you.
Sorry about that. It's a very valid point. Thank you for that. So that is guidance to us all, please.
Well, hopefully you can hear me now. Okay, so thank you for the meeting we had this week. I think what I would wish to add is that we've got a positive response also from colleagues in Suffolk to work jointly together with business on this particular issue of the neighbourhood Cambridge, but particularly to the poor ways. So thank you. We will continue to work with you and our colleagues on that particular issue.
Chair, can I just reiterate that point about acoustics? Gentlemen, please speak into the microphones, because my camcorder is only picking up 1 or 2 bars, and the amount of extra editing that I have to do with the audio because you're not speaking into the microphones is huge, and that doesn't help members of the audience. Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, we'll speak up. And I'd just like to, as a final comment, the assessment of the report on the 1307 is against the City Deal's objectives, and clearly whatever we say about rail, busway or road, this has been purely said in terms of the City Deal, and clearly there is a discussion still to continue. Thank you, Mr. Burke.
And thank you for your support in that.
Right. And the next question is from Claire Tripp. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Chairman. May I request also hands joins this part of the questions as well, because we're both talking about the same issue. I'm going to, if I may, I'll ask hands to speak first.
Yeah, by all means.
Thank you very much.
I have two questions.
Thank you very much.
I need to speak towards the quantity.
And audible. We, and this is the co-located organisation on the Cambridgeshire Medical Campus, would like to lend our strong support for the proposal on the slip road on the M11 at junction 11. As it will assist us to really encourage staff, visitors, patients to use public transport when visiting the campus. As you know, there's already a huge problem, especially at peak time, around this part of the M11 and junction, no matter how you approach it. And given that we will have Popworth and AZ fully functioning in a couple of years from now, these things can only get worse. And I want to also highlight that the expansion of the campus is not finished by then, because we're going currently through phase 2 and will actually attract more organizations to the campus. And we think that the slip road option would actually go quite a way to alleviate at least the problem. And we would also see this as one of the, probably the only City Deal project addressing this problem in a timely fashion. Because we otherwise we're running out of time to find a solution to at least ease the problem at that part of the end level. We are, of course, aware that there are apprehensions and skepticism about the viability of the project, but we believe amongst ourselves that this actually is a viable option, and we would like to see it go ahead. We are prepared, as a matter of fact, to actually run a project that we will support to show that it is viable, and we therefore ask for the proposal to be put forward and actually put into place. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And really to endorse that, mine's not so much a question, it's a position statement regarding Carpen Hospital. In that Carpen is a founder member of the Cambridge University Health Partners and working with other organisations on the Cambridgeshire Medical Campus. It's also to really put a line under the fact that the majority of Carpen Hospital staff do live to the northwest and southwest of the Cambridgeshire Medical Campus. Indeed, about 870 staff live to the northwest, and to be explicit, 525 live to the southwest. Staff are very clear in that they believe their journey time understandably will take longer to get onto the campus, but they're also very willing to look at innovative ways in which they can improve their journey time. And the Magley Road parking line with the slip road would be part of that, were it to be put in place. My other comment would be around where the hospital will be in terms of its patient flow in April 2018. It will be servicing 70,000 outpatients and 25,000 inpatients, which is an awful lot of traffic to put into the system. Granted, they won't all be coming from the northwest, they'll be coming from a number of areas, but equally creating good access is important. Catworth endorses the comment made by my colleague around being prepared to initiate and support with other organisations on the campus bus service for staff and wider stakeholders to demonstrate the viability of the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got this as item 13, so we will come on to it later. Mr. Hughes, do you want to give an initial response?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as the Chairman says, this is an item on the board's agenda today. The recommendation to the board is to move ahead with the scheme, although the board needs to take a decision on that. I think, just to be clear though, this has had quite a long history through the Assembly and the board in terms of developing this proposal, and it's not going to be an easy proposal if the board decides to move ahead with it to deliver it. There are some significant issues with Highways England that we need to overcome. At the moment, there is no indication there will be any buses using the route, and certainly there is merit, I think, in seeing it as part of the broad Western Waterfall proposals, which again the board needs to decide on. So really, I mean, there is there could be some benefits, but I think actually the delivery could be quite significant as well. Just one final point I'll make in Mr. Harden's note, there was a reference to both use by cars and public transport. Just to be clear, for all members, it's always been assumed this will be a public transport only route, and I think if we were to put this to Highways England on the basis of being anything other than just public transport and therefore only occasional use, I think we would get a very different response. So the discussion we've had so far has only been in relation to buses, which is likely to be more acceptable.
Can I just thank you both for the data, and also clearly one of the issues is going to be what buses would use this slip road. So clearly some of the further feasibility work, should the board support it, is going to be on that. But thank you for your input, and obviously, particularly after there was a debate that Councillor Bickle reported on from the Assembly, we obviously need to take a view, and will take a view, and be informed by what we've said. Thank you. And question 6 is from Barbara Taylor.
I'm a resident of Norton Road, and my question actually can apply to the right.
Barbara, right into the microphone, please.
Yeah, I'm a resident of Norton Road, and my question can apply to all right. The recent consultation regarding proposals for Milton Road for addressing congestion in Cambridgeshire was notable for the absence of any proposals to reduce the impact of the city centre as a primary bottleneck preventing free movement of traffic across the centre of the city. Would the City Executive Board now stop work on any other measures until they have addressed this crucial contributory element to congestion in Cambridge?
Thanks for your question, Barbara. I mean, our position is, and I think I can speak to the board, that we believe in both. And the proposal is to bring forward in the summer a report on the city centre access strategy. And as part of that, to bring together some of the issues that came out of the call for evidence. But I can ask other board members, but from my position, we need both. And it's right that we look at the two as a combined impact together. So the proposal is to bring a report at the earliest on Milton and Liston Road in the summer, and to have a set of proposals about reducing the overall future number of cars coming into the city at the same time. Councillor Burkett, what's that?
I support that.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. And then if we can move on to question 7, and that is from Michael Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You'll need to speak right up against it, Michael.
Yes. My questions, although it look like two, are actually one related to the proposals for orbital roads around Cambridge. This is the only bit of the recent consultations that appears to be anything like strategic thinking. Because one of the big problems is pumping everything through the middle of the city, which is already full. You just can't keep doing it. You will not discourage commuters unless you take some very active measures to do it. And the Western Orbital proposal should be buses only, does make a sensible approach to try and distribute people around the city. But unfortunately, at the launch meeting a week ago, although they were asked, how does it link up with the places commuters actually want to get to, was really not answered at that stage. In terms of the east-west portal,
Sorry,
in terms of
bring you to a question. Can I bring you to a question?
Yes, sorry, yes. So the question really is, with this and the Eastern Portal, that there really should be discussion with residents of Cambridge who have a big interest in actually the efficient movement of people who just come into work and want to go away again, without having their environment, their facilities, and their ability to move about their city completely screwed up.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Mr. Hughes, have you got anything to add on the Western Warburton in relation to other plans?
Well, I think in terms of what I understood was the question from Mr. Bond around an eastern relief road around the A14, that's what I understood you came to ask about. I mean, that's a very, very different issue, and it does have a history, and I understand that the Resident Association put that forward to the Highways Agency as they were at the time when they were looking at the A14 improvements. So, insofar as that relates to the Western Orbital, I don't think there really is a relationship. The Western Orbital is principally about getting people from the west and to the west of the city, around the city effectively, and down to primary campuses. So distributing traffic, bus users without them, as you say, needing to go to Cambridge city centre, which clearly an in and out movement does have greater impacts on the city centre than would an orbital movement. So that's really the purpose of the Western Orbital. So it's not seeking to address the wider issues towards the east of the city that you refer to in the question. I mean, I think just more generally on the point you make about consulting, I think there's a huge amount of consultation. There are some reports about on the agenda today for the board to consider, and there will be very, very significant ongoing consultations on all of the schemes the city board seeking to move forward. So I think we're always happy to talk about if there are better ways of doing that, but I do think there is a very, very significant amount of local and wider consultation currently taking place on all the schemes.
I mean, I think the genesis of the Western Orbital report isn't because we've got the funds to look hard at it immediately. It was just to start to prompt the principle that within the strategy there is a significant plan to invest in orbital capacity and thereby not take bus traffic as well as other movements all the way in. So some of that was effectively an advanced consultation. So when we come on to the budget later on, we're effectively listing schemes Mr. Bond was proposing to consider as part of the first 5 years, and then we'll come on to this. But I think there will be further consultation on this and on the measures that are city-wide. Thanks. Question 8 is from Richard Taylor, and that relates to the delegations and that related issues. Welcome.
Okay, I'm Richard Taylor, I'm a resident of Cambridge, 2 disclosures. I have a house on Milton Road, and I used to work with Michael Slater, one of the board members. Now, the 3 of you, the 3 members of the board here, can potentially exercise all the powers of local councils in this area. And what I've come today to do is to urge you to be very clear about which of those powers you are intending to exercise in relation to each scheme. I think that's really important for transparent decision making and so that people know who to lobby. As a specific example, on Milton Road, I don't know at the moment who will be taking decisions relating to tree felling and tree works. I don't know if that's going to go through the existing city and county council process or if that's a power you're going to take here and the 3 councils here will take decisions on the Milton Road trees.
You raise very important questions, and we need to be precise in responding to them. I think Tanya's going to respond, but I think what we propose to do is to put in writing what the protocol is, both in terms of what this City Deal Board will take decisions on and what we will leave to other authorities and be clear as to what is which is which. Antony? Or Graham?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, just specifically, as the Chair said, we can summarise all that, and I think that's probably the easiest way to make it available and put it on the websites, and then there is clarity. If I just touch on this point specifically about the trees, that is actually a really complicated issue. We only had 24 hours notice of the question, and so we have been trying to, if you like, be absolutely clear, because there is a relationship between primacy of different, if you like, parts of the legislation in terms of Highways Act and Planning Act. So, with the 24 hours we've had, I mean, it's not been possible to put together an absolutely clear answer on the tree issue, but we will do that. And similarly, as Mr. Chairman said, the powers that have been delegated to this board, we will clarify that position as soon as we can.
So we register, it's a really important question, and we do need to have absolute clarity. We haven't taken on powers from the County Council to abuse them. We've taken them on to be clear about this as an integrated decision process. Thank you. I understand Robin Penny's not very well, but is someone going to ask a question? Or no? We've already arranged with Cambridgeshire, both Stacey Weiser and Robin to have a meeting, so we would expect to address the questions in a meeting. Okay. Question 10 is from Lynn Wyatt. Lynn?
My question is about the discussion on the 1st of March at the Highways and Community Infrastructure Committee to delegate more powers to the City Deal Board. An amendment came along with that decision, which, as I understand it, has the effect that more safeguards for decision-making will now be required by the Executive Board. Can you tell us when the details of those safeguards will be published to the public and to the Highways Committee, which requested a report from the Board on the safeguards? And will they cover all of the concerns about these matters raised in the Smarter Cambridge Transport document to the Highways Committee, which was circulated to this Board on Monday? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I think similar and following up from the question from Mr. Taylor, we will want to put it clear and in writing as to who takes which decisions. I could hazard a proposal that we would get back initially in about a fortnight, but obviously there may be some details. So we will put this down in writing in a very clear and transparent way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Can I just make it clear, I think, bear in mind the previous question and this one, those two need to be one statement so that everybody's clear, because they do slightly overlap in some.
So there will be one statement, and I think it's right that there are the kind of safeguards that were moved as an amendment at the County Council's committee, so that obviously some of those words were very, as you were rightly pointing to, were very general, so we'll be specific. Thanks. We move on to question 11 from Councillor Tony Borgie.
Thank you very much. There are 2 pages, the last 2 pages of this document which set out some background details, and I should say that there should be a small preamble to the question, which is something along the lines of, given that it appears from what you've already said earlier in this meeting, that there will be no action taken proposed for the limits and bottlenecks. Given the extensive parking with a number of biomedical and biotechnology employment sites south of Cambridge, and given the presence of an underused park and ride site at Avon Road, and then the question follows. The question, perhaps in a not very elegant way, tries to get at is a more strategic point, and that is really, do you feel that what you have before you today represents a missed opportunity to consider the interrelated major biomedical and biotechnology employment sites of Addenbrooke's, the Avon campus, Granter Park TWI, the Genome campus and the Great Chesterfield site, and the congestion hotspots of Linton and the A505 Sawston roundabout in a holistic and integrated way?
Thank you for that question. Graham, do you want to start and we can answer that?
Thank you, Chairman. I think probably the simplest answer to that, Councillor Rodgers, is that we're only in this piece of work at the very, very early stages, and so we've identified as officers some potential proposals. The board will be discussing those proposals. We're suggesting that if they're accepted, they go up to consultation. So I don't think we can say absolutely at this moment in time what the impact of any of those will be. I think we feel that it's a good balance in terms of the objectives of the city deal, but ultimately board and through the consultation that needs to be done.
I mean, when we had the original list, Councillor Orgy, of the priorities that the officers had recommended for the first 5 years, this area wasn't in them. And the board, assisted by the Assembly, took the view that there needed to be a plan. So it is a conceptual proposal, but I think you do make a really important point, because the nature of the local plan and the jobs creation that's occurring at those locations means that there is significant numbers, and therefore there's a significant public transport demand, along with other linkages, including potentially cycling as well. So it's assisted by information that you provided and others, including the Chamber of Commerce. We will go out to consultation and we'll welcome proposals, because clearly it isn't just about Cambridge in that corridor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Angela Chadwick-Keefe.
I am a resident of Madden Road, and today I'm only going to ask one question, because we have time restriction on us, and I would only like to ask one question. I would like to ask for clarification of the expenditure table at Appendix A to budget, which is item 8 of the agenda. What is the Madden Road bus priority project listed here? I thought all the options were still on the table for the bus lane to put on the northern, central and southern route, or if there are other routes altogether. Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't do it.
Don't worry. Take your time. You have as much time as you need, including water.
Is there some other set of works planned for Madden Road that are not those set out in the Cambourne to Cambridge consultation? If not, then why is the expenditure already categorised this way? We would like greater clarity on this. It is necessary for you to reassure residents that you have open minds. I am asking this partly of you because I may have missed something. The table says that the Madden Road expenditure is combined with the A428 project. But what does that mean in terms of the table?
Thank you. So for those who want to reference the table, it's on page 35 of the agenda. Mr. Hughes, or Tony's going to answer this one. And in terms of your other questions, Angela, we'll get a written answer back to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Straightforward answer. They are, in mathematical language, Madden Road bus priority plus A428 to M11 segregated bus routes /A428 corridor equals Cambourne to Cambridge or A428. These are historic project level labels from January 2015. They've all been combined into one project. So future finance reports will have them as just one line item, and yes, all options still on the table as item 10 on the agenda.
So in terms of the overall quantum of numbers that are on page 35, these are indicative numbers, Angela, at the moment. So part of the objective of reaching decisions on schemes as we come back and look at the consultation in the summer is to come forward with clearer amounts, including because the board and the city deal only have 100 million to spend within the first 5 years anyway. So the plus some other funds, but not a significant addition. So the actual the numbers don't actually have any firm validity, if that's helpful, because they're only indicative at this stage, and will be only linked to what scheme is actually adopted on whatever part of the city deal. So the numbers have got no physical shape behind them at the moment. Yeah, other than an allocation documentation which will be reviewed in the autumn. Thanks. Question 13 from Wendy Live.
Morning everybody. I just got a little bit of tweaking might fit into Carpen's text. The local liaison forum is a bit of a mystery to city residents. And I'm asking why our city deal is putting in another layer of bureaucracy that seems to distance their voices from the real decision makers. Could you give residents the reassurance that even when the local liaison forum is set up, and stakeholders who will be on it, defined by our city councillors, the residents will still have access to existing forums and will be able to approach this board and the Assembly directly with their questions? Thank you.
Well, in terms of the last point, I can give you that full assurance that there's no intention of these liaison forums use them in that way. But I think Tony Sheridan has responded initially. Do you want to add anything? Or just contribute what the purpose in the way that the county councillors use local liaison forums has been? Clearly there has to be, these are tended to have been set up outside of the city, therefore they've taken this form encouraging people from parishes and other organisations. We would clearly want to have a different route to ensure that we get good representation if we're involving people within the city. Mr. Hughes?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the only thing I'd add to that is that we have, as the County Council, we've used local liaison forums in a number of schemes, as the Chairman said, generally, in fact, probably exclusively outside of Cambridge City, so it is new to the city. The point of it is just to act as a, if you like, forum for issues to be raised as they come up. So for local councils and other stakeholders that are, if you like, there as well, to have an interactive dialogue with officers. It's not a decision-making group, but it's actually a way of, in much sort of more real time, people being able to understand what's coming up, what's being planned, how things are developing. And from our experience, as we started using them on the Guide Busway project, and from our experience, they've been tremendously helpful in often, to be honest, heading off what could become a big issue when people aren't really sort of able to air their thoughts and get the information they need. So it's not in any way aimed at stopping people from doing that, as you say, Mr. Chairman's confirmed, all of the normal routes are still available, but it's just a much more local, real-time way of being able to have a discussion about what's coming up, and we found them tremendously helpful, and I think generally they've been by residents and local members being found very helpful as well. In fact, actually, Chairman, I can just add, we effectively have used this with relation to the Abbey Chesterton Bridge and the Cambridgeshire Station, forum led by Councillor Ian Manning from the County Council, and I think in that area he and local residents have found it particularly helpful as a sort of quick way of getting information and share thoughts.
Yeah, because I did tweet my question, because my original question I also said that chairs of residents forum weren't invited to the first forum on Monday. In fact, it's the same night as the residents forum, the City Council's resident forum, so you can't go. Hence concerns.
So we'll have a look at avoiding clashes, and
yes.
I think certainly there's a different pattern needs to be established for the city area, because it doesn't have the same local structures that you have that exist out in areas of South Cambridgeshire. Councillor Bates and Councillor Burkett both wanted to make a comment.
Just to add quickly that the highways England are using the same local forums on the A14, so it's not confined to county council work.
No.
Other organisations do very similar, and those meetings have been organised and are currently taking place. So other organisations follow very much about those local concerns that perhaps people have got, where perhaps very specific, technical sometimes can be answered at those local forums. Not necessarily come to something like a board or an assembly. You can actually be dealt with in a proper form. So they're used by other organisations.
Transparency about stakeholders is the question also.
Well, I think given that you also speak on behalf of the Residents Association of the City. I think we'll get you a reply about that.
Okay, thanks very much.
Do you want to say something? Yeah.
Well, I think it might just be helpful as Mr. Hughes to clarify. If I'm right, it's not that there's going to be one spectrum liaison forum, but not everything. There's going to be a number of liaison forums for each project. Is that right?
Chairman, through you, yes, that's correct.
So they are local. Okay. But we'll clarify that. Finally, question 14 is from Councillor Stephen Brown. Welcome.
Thank you for fitting me in. Right. The A10 Cambridge to Royston cycle scheme was prioritised in City Deal Tranche 1 consideration. Cambridge Biomedical Campus Partners, in a letter to you a year ago, said that this is a scheme they need to help get people from the A10 South Corridor to work without a car. They made special note of the Melbourne to Royston segment. To take just one example, AstraZeneca already has 200 employees living in Royston and 600 plus in the rest of the corridor, and more on the way. While not making the cut for early City Deal delivery, much work has been done on all sides to progress the scheme through other means, as you know. What has been built in recent months, connecting Carpen to Foxton, has been transformative. Cycle commuters are now getting through Foxton Level Crossing much more quickly than cars, and counters are being installed. AstraZeneca is now working on the nuts and bolts of helping first-time cyclists to make the switch, looking at types of electric pool bikes and so on. But the Melbourne to Royston segment, with the greatest population concentration, is unfunded. In order to achieve a scheme that is so deliverable and can so easily contribute to the critical modal shift of travel to Cambridge Biomedical Campus, my request to the City Deal Board is to bring the unfunded segment of the overall scheme into tranche 1. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Van. As you recall, we had a meeting with yourself and also with Councillor Burkett on this issue. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Councillor Burkett.
I think it would be of great interest in residents of South Cambridgeshire district, and I very much welcome the officer's report and tune on that.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes, Chairman, we can certainly do that.
So, I think our approach is complicated on some schemes because there's the opportunity to win funding which isn't from City Deal, but I think our commitment is to fund those parts of the gap, including the area that we discussed adjacent to Melbourne, if we can afford it, which I think we can, as part of helping the incremental progress that has been really impressive that you've made. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you to all for all those questions. I've noted several written responses, one to the cycling campaign, one to Mr Taylor, and also to the Federation of Cambridge Residents Associations. So